Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast, which is sponsored by UK Fightwear and hosted also by MMA Victor. MMA Victor is a fancy site. You can go and check them out, and you can make all your picks for all the biggest promotions, including the likes of UFC, Bellator, XFC, World Series of Fighting, Cage Warriors. So it's definitely worth checking them out. Okay, we've got 3 great guests lined up, but before we shout out what guests we've got on this week, I just want to give a few shout outs to the MMA Victor family, the MMA all the podcasts that we team up with and work with on a regular basis. So I want to shout out first the MMA podcast, which is hosted by Jake and Ramses, which they break down all the latest news, and they also have guests on as well. Then we've got Word on the Street, which is hosted again by Ramses with Coach Jamie Huey. He's been getting some really big guests on. I know recently had Bob Sapp on, which was a fun show. I know actually Jake and Ramses recently had MMA Roasted on as well, which was good as well. So it's definitely worth checking that on the MMA podcast. And then we've got the MMA Victor Roundtable, which is a new show that I've set up myself. We only get together on the weeks of a UFC card, and that's myself, Brooks, and UFC middleweight Luke Barnett. We get together. It's only short and sweet, about 25-30 minutes, breaking down the main fights from the next UFC event. And then we've got the early stoppage as well, which is hosted by Jay Jeans. And then we do the MMA Roundtable, which is a collaboration of all the shows. We come together once a week and break down all the latest news. And also check out Brooks' new Facebook page, the MMA Addiction. So that's spelled MMADDICTION. And that'll bring you all of our interviews and also all the latest news from all the biggest promotions. So definitely worth checking that out. Okay, so we've got 3 guests lined up for this week. So guest number 1 is Kiefer Crosbie. Kiefer is semi-pro. I think it won't be long before he turns pro. He trains with the brilliant John Kavanagh, who of course is one of the top coaches easily in Europe, and is certainly taking the Irish MMA scene by storm. And he was a winner on Cage Contender. And then Jay Jean speaks to Kurt Holobaugh. So that's another great interview. He talks about his recent fight with Stephen Seiler. And obviously after the fight he was cut, even though it was such a good fight, and it was a short notice fight as well, so it seemed a little bit harsh. So he talks about trying to work his way back to getting up to the big leagues. And then finally we've got John Maguire on. John's got a big fight coming up soon. He's making his UFC Lightweight debut at UFC 161, so he gives us the inside feed on that. So hopefully you enjoy these interviews.
MMA fans, the XFC is coming to the USF Sundome Friday, June 14th. Visit officialxfc.com for tickets. Be a part of the crowd as the top local and national fighters take to the cage to knuckle up and throw down on national television. Tickets are available starting at $20. VIP and cage side seating available upon request. Visit officialxfc.com for tickets. The next generation of MMA comes to Tampa, June 14th. Be there.
We're now joined by Kiefer Crosbie. Kiefer fought at Cage Contender 17 and picked up a very quick and impressive victory with a standing guillotine choke. Kiefer, thanks for joining us today.
How you doing, man? What's happening?
I'm good, thank you. Congratulations on your win.
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Am I right in saying it was a short notice fight?
Yeah, it was a short notice fight. I got the phone call on Thursday evening, and then I was fighting on Saturday, so more or less 2 days notice, I suppose. But I was training on Thursday morning. I did some sparring. I done 12 40-minute rounds of sparring, and then I went back training that night. And I got the call then just before I went back training. I had a fight coming up, and I was pretty tired the whole week, but it was alright. It went in my favour anyway.
So you talked there a little bit about the training. Let us know what gym you train with and some of the people that you train with.
Well, I train in SBG under John Kavanagh, and then obviously everybody knows who trains in SBG. We've got UFC star Conor Mcguire, we've got Kurt Holobaugh, Chris Field, Paddy Hewland, Ashton Daly. We have the best fighters in the country, in Europe, in our gym. So I'm training with some serious killers every day.
There's a real buzz about that gym at the minute, isn't there? There's so many. Obviously, we've seen what Conor's done, and we've seen Cathal, obviously at Cage Warriors as well. There's a lot of buzz about your gym at the minute, isn't there?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like, there was always a buzz in the gym. I joined SVG maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and there's always been a buzz in the gym. I think people are just recognising it now. It's getting a bit more recognition, and it's about time because, I mean, everybody in that gym, I mean, we work so hard, you know, and we deserve that recognition. And I think when Conor obviously got into the UFC, and it just seemed a bit more like, this is real, this can happen for all of us, you know what I mean? And then the hype just started building, and then, like, I mean, and then everybody, you know, got the recognition, and everyone's still winning fights. I mean, you saw Cage Warriors the other night. Everybody from SVG was super, you know. That was like a UFC card. That was like watching the UFC. Probably even better, to be honest, than the UFC. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the direction we're going in. Like, Irish MMA is getting seriously big now, and I think SVG plays a serious role in that. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's absolutely booming, and obviously your head coach John Kavanagh. I mean, he's brilliant, isn't he?
He's the main man. I mean, he's the mastermind behind it all. You know, that's every fighter needs a coach. You know, no matter what they say. There's a lot of fighters that go in and they train all over the place. They don't really have a coach. You know, they have coaches and they kind of just do their own thing and listen to themselves. But you need someone to listen to. You need someone to ask questions. You know what I mean? He's like the teacher. You know what I mean? We're like students going into a classroom and we're just asking him questions, and he's just filling us full of knowledge. And he's so smart when it comes to martial arts. You know, he knows so much, and I mean, there's seldom. Actually, it's not seldom. He always answers the questions. You know, he always knows the answer. So he's brilliant to train. I was training in a lot of other different places before, and I've never trained with anyone like him. I've never even like seen a martial artist like him, and he still trains every day as well. He's not just a coach. He trains too. Like, he's still at it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, when you train with some of the people you train with, and when you see what they can achieve, and obviously the obvious one is Conor, but of course it's people that are doing really well in other promotions like Cage Contender, Cage Warriors. Does that help inspire you to know that that you're going in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you're from. You know, there used to be this like kind of perception that you have to be kind of American to get big in the UFC. You have to be from Brazil, or you have to, I don't know, be a black belt in BJ. At the end of the day, once you put the hours in, put the work in, and like believe that you can be something, you can be something, and that's it. There's no two ways about it. That's it. That's a fact. You know, and obviously everyone's seen Conor's debut, and I mean, you just look at the guy. He believes in himself so much that he made it happen, and it's happening. And I think that part of martial arts is probably more important than just the physical aspect. It's just believing in yourself that you can do these things. You know what I mean? Because we can all do it. It's just a matter of putting the work in and getting the support, I suppose, from the country. And it's tough though. It's tough when you don't have a job and you're going to the gym twice a day, every day, getting thrown around the place and getting punched and kicked, and you're not getting paid for it. And it is kind of, it's hard. You don't even get paid for these amateur fights, and we're still fighting just the same as pros. And then the pros aren't even getting paid that much, and it's tough going. You know, it does take a lot of discipline and a lot of balls, to be honest, to stick at it, because it's not easy. It's not easy going. It's not as if we're getting like millions for a fight, you know.
Yeah, I know, but I think you're in the right place for moving forward. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your fight, and then you can let me know where you go from here. So, obviously, you faced Owen Kinney. Like you say, you took it on short notice fight. Do you want to talk to us how the fight went? Tell us how the fight went.
Yeah, well, obviously, I only had a day's notice, but I don't really look up opponents. And anyway, there's no point. I don't like to look up opponents at a club or what they've done, or I don't even like to know what their record is, to be honest, because that means nothing to me. Like, numbers mean nothing, names mean nothing. You know, I'm getting in there and I'm fighting a human being, you know what I mean? He has 2 arms, 2 legs and 1 head, and that's all it is to me. It's just another body, you know. It doesn't matter. So that didn't bother me. That's why, I think, I don't know, his record was 3-1 after the fight. Someone said he had a lot of experience and he was good, but there you go. If I thought that before the fight, it probably would have played a factor in the fight. It would have been in my head. So I don't really like to look into that type of thing. And also, I don't like to have any game plans. You know, I train hard enough to kind of go in and let my body take over, and whatever I kind of see, I do, and whatever I do, I just go with the flow. I don't just try and stick to one thing, or have a specific game plan. I just kind of go in and let it all loose. Whatever happens, and that's basically what I did. I just done a warm up, and did a normal warm up, went in, and I just said, right, well, I'll just move around and see what he's got, and then that's what happened.
Now, there was a little bit of action on the ground, and there was a reversal, and of course that led to the choke. How quickly did you see the choke?
Well, that pissed me off, to be honest, because like basically what happened was I was inside him and I had full side control, and I knee-roided him, but I made a stupid mistake. And it's funny because literally from last Monday morning, I fought last Saturday. Last Monday morning I went to the gym and I literally walked on that for about 40 minutes just from side mount to get the knee ride. And I know what I'd done wrong. I just didn't post my hand out. I had an underhook, which was correct to do inside side control, but when you're knee riding you're supposed to post out, and I didn't post out. Obviously it was just in the heat of the moment, but yeah, I was drilling that all week, so that won't be happening again, first of all. Yeah, then he just kind of bridged and rolled. Like, he was a strong bloke, you know, he was training up for that fight, so he obviously came prepared. It's not as if he took the fight on the day's notice. He took the fight, like, weeks in advance. He was training and fit for this fight, so he was coming in for a fight. You know, he didn't even have to cut weight or dehydrate himself, and he was feeling fresh, so obviously he was going to come in strong and you know, ready for a scrap. And that's exactly what happened. Like, when I went to knee ride him, he just exploded, and then he kind of got to his feet, I suppose, and then I got to my feet, but he made a stupid mistake of leaving his head low and his neck high, and basically I put the guillotine on just to secure a good position with my back against the fence to get my feet together, and then I kind of lifted him a little bit just to see what he'd do, because I thought what he'd do is when I lifted him, drop down for my legs, and that's why I was going to go back to the ground, but it was really tight. Like, I had it perfectly on, and then when I squeezed him the second time, obviously John was screaming at me, guillotine and finish it, and I squeezed it on just to see what he done, and he tapped. I was kind of, as I said in the interview, I was kind of surprised he tapped so quick, but you know, sometimes when the guillotine's on really tight and you have it on, it's, you know, it's tough to get out of, and you just have to tap. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, I think you caught him in unawares as well. You did seem to get it on tight, and you did seem to get it on quite quick as well. And like you say, he just didn't, like you say, when you train, you plan what positions you're going to be in, and not plan, but you react to positions you're in. He just didn't react right, did he? And like you say, the choke was on quick and tight, and I think he probably panicked and tapped. But it was a brilliant finish. Like you say, you did get sweep, which is obviously something you've worked on, but the submission was brilliant. Where do you go from here then? What's your plan going forward for your next fight, and how long will it be before you look to go pro?
Well, I'm fighting this Saturday. Believe it or not, I'm fighting on a show up in Letterkenny. It's called Immortal. Same thing. I don't know who I'm fighting. I don't know if he's fought before. To be honest, I only found the fucking name of the show a few weeks. I don't know. John sends me a date and said he's available to fight at 77, and I just say, yeah, that's the way we work it. You know what I mean? And that's the way it's always gonna be. I'm not gonna ever look into anything else. So yeah, I'm fighting up there on Saturday. Then after that, I'll be fighting in Battle Zone in Cork on the 6th of July, I think that is, and then I'm just going to take it from there. Take it as I train with I train like a pro, I act like a pro, I fight like a pro. I just haven't made the transition to pro yet. You know what I mean? So whatever John says, I'll do. As I said, if John wants me to have 100 amateur fights, I'll have 100 amateur fights. That's no problem, because as you said at the start, he knows it all. He's the man. You know what I mean? He's the mastermind behind all of the success of all the fighters you see from SBG. So I'm not going to argue or disagree with anything he says. I'm just going to listen, and whatever he says, I'll do. So I'm just going to take my time and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Just rack up all this experience.
I think that's a great attitude, and you're in the best place you can possibly be. And you know, we're seeing it on a big scale now, not even just on an Irish scale or a UK scale or European. We're seeing it on a world scale now. So you're in the best place you can be. Congratulations on the fight. Good luck for your next couple of fights. And obviously, thank you for coming on today. Before we go, if you want to do any shout outs before I let you go, and just let people you want to thank, or whoever you want to shout out.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm not pro yet, so I have no sponsors, but I was only saying this the other day to some of the lads in the gym. We're broke too. Amateurs are all around the country are broke as motherfuckers, you know what I mean? We should get sponsors as well. If people want to help out, sponsor us with some free shit, send it our way, because we need it just as much as pros do, because like the way as I said, I train like a pro. I'm in the gym twice, 3 times a day, sometimes every single day. I have no job. This is my job. This is what I do. So it's tough going, and you have fucking no money, and you're doing fucking nothing but training. You know what I mean? So obviously I can't shout out to anyone there, but obviously my coach John Kavanagh, I owe it all to him, and one day it will all pay off for all of us. And all of my team in SBG. That's the only people that improve me, John and my team, and that's all I need. When I'm in that gym, I live in that gym. That's all I do. So I wake up, I go to the gym, I go home, I go back to the gym. That's it. There's nothing else more to my life but that. So I owe it all to them. And obviously the Irish Strength Institute, they help us out a lot with some strength and conditioning training. And so that's more or less it.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I think we're going to see you grow and get bigger, and we're going to see you make a big impact on the sport as well. But thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much to you, man. Thank you.
Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's edition of The Early Stoppage. We're here today with Kurt Holobaugh. Man, how's things going with you?
Oh man, everything good as of right now.
How's things up in Louisiana then?
Oh, they're not too bad.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, you had a fight, I don't know, was it about 5-6 weeks ago now? It was a crazy fight. I still believe it deserved Fight of the Night, and a lot of stuff has happened since then, but I guess we've got to begin with the fight itself. I mean, it was very close, and even statistically, you did outstrike Steven Seiler. Have you had a chance to rewatch that fight, man?
Yeah, I've actually, I've sit back and watched it a couple of times, and needless to say, get mad every time I watch it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, it was a very exciting fight. When you were in there, how did it feel?
It didn't really feel any different than any other fight. Credit to Steven Seiler, man. The dude's good. I knew he was going to be good. He had a good clinch, which worked very well because I actually kind of got spiked on my head in the first round, kind of on my neck. So the clinch after that was very effective.
It was an absolutely fantastic fight, I've got to agree. How did it was a close fight as well. This is the other thing. Even though most people scored it, 2 rounds to Steven Seiler, but there was a case for you winning I think it was the second round. How did your corner score it?
Yeah, it was definitely, I definitely thought I pulled the second round in the judges' scorecards. He had my back in the first round, and, I don't know, luckily I survived a few rear naked chokes, a few heavy punches from the ground and pound when he had my back, and, I knew he had that round, so when that round ended, I just knew that I had to get the next round.
Yeah, well, you went on to give him a fight. I mean, the first round it looked like Steven Seiler might be able to finish you, but you proved your worth, and that's one thing to say for sure. When you went backstage, did you see yourself maybe getting the bonus? Did you think the fight was exciting when you were in there?
Yeah, man, I really did. I really thought that was a fight, a back and forth. He wins the first round, I win the second round. I'm winning the third round until I make a mistake, and then he capitalizes and finishes off in a good position. So, both of us pretty bloodied up. Man, to me, that was definitely Fight of the Night.
I mean, this is now the situation. There is a lot that's happened since this fight, and the first thing that we've got to talk about is Pat Healy and the drugs test. I mean, he had to hand over his submission of the night winnings, and he handed that to Brian Caraway. But Jim Miller got to keep his bonus, and you and Steven Seiler, you went home with just your regulars.
Right.
How do you now feel knowing that Pat Healy, he's broken the rules effectively, and you don't get any credit from it, but he's just seemed to have lost it all and given it back to the company. What's your thoughts on that?
First off, man, it's I really hate that that happened to him, but at the same time, everybody knows the rules, and whether it's that bad of a drug or not, it's still on the rules list, and they should know, So, I kind of feel bad because, for one, I feel like I got beat by Pat Healy twice and only fought him once, and so, the guys know the rules.
That is true. I mean, you say it right completely there. I mean, you had your first zuffa, I guess, zuffa promotional debut against Pat Healy at lightweight, and that was that was something in itself, because Pat Healy has gone on to do fantastic things in the UFC. He's a fantastic competitor in Strikeforce, and you were a guy who again gave him also a competitive fight.
Right.
Looking back on that fight now, a lot of people were even saying that Pat Healy had no chance against Jim Miller because his last performance wasn't the regular him. But in my eyes, it was you bringing it to him. You brought something that he didn't expect. How did you see that fight compared to the one with Steven Seiler?
Basically the same. I figured I'd have the advantage on the feet with Pat. I knew he's a great wrestler, and I knew he was going to be bigger and stronger. I just felt that I stood in front of him too long instead of cutting angles on him, which got him to take down and won him the fight.
That was, and again, this was another fight whereby, in terms of statistics, you were able to outstrike him, which is
Right.
it's phenomenal that you've been put up against these. Pat Healy is probably looked at around the top 10, at least top 8 in the lightweight division, and Steven Seiler, he's 4-1 in the UFC right now. And I guess the other thing we got to note about the Steven Seiler fight is you took that fight on 5 weeks' notice. Is that correct?
Right.
So you took that fight on 5 weeks' notice. You've fought the top 10 in the division. Then we got to get straight to the crap here. You got cut by the UFC.
Yep.
And this is what makes no sense to me, and I'm sure it makes no sense to you. How you can have a guy who has put on 2 fantastic performances and questionably against Pat Healy, definitely punched above your weight. You made it an exciting fight that nobody expected. And you get cut. How did the cut happen?
Well, it kind of came to my manager. I guess he knew right after the fight that that I was probably going to get cut. I would have thought I'd at least had, I had a 4-fight contract and they cut me after 2 fights. So I would have thought that I at least had one more fight, give me the 3 before I got cut. I can kind of understand if I would have just got dominated and finished, but I know the fight that I put up against Pat and the fight that I put up against Seiler, and I thought that was definitely worth one more shot at least. But it's a business, and I know the rosters are slam packed right now, and I know that's probably the main reason that they had to let me go. But I just got to do what I can to work my way back.
In my head, it doesn't make sense, and I think in terms of a business point of view, I can kind of see it, but then I can't. It's one of those issues where you've got a guy who shows promise against two very top tier competition, and then they keep guys in like Papi Abedi who have shown nothing in the UFC, and they're able to stick around for 2 fights. Papi Abedi fought Thiago Alves, and he got finished. You fought Pat Healy,
Right.
and you didn't get finished. So they've definitely got something wrong with their management. And as I said when I tweeted you in the first place, Mark Hunt lost his first UFC fight, and look where he got now.
Right.
In my head, you can't cut someone after just one performance against a real UFC. He's turning into a UFC veteran, and Steven Seiler definitely is an MMA veteran.
Oh yeah.
But I guess we had better look back at your past and your future. I mean, you were the XFC champion, I believe, in 2 weight classes.
Yeah, that's not the big XFC. That's actually a smaller promotion in Louisiana. A lot of people seem to get that confused, but I am the champion at 155 and 145.
That's still better than everybody else pretty much everybody else who's listening to this show. That's more than anybody can say that they're a champion, not only in a promotion, but who holds 2 belts. So, are you planning to return back to the promotion? What's your plans for the future now?
Well, as of right now, the UFC is my ultimate goal. I really don't want to sign with Bellator. I don't want to sign World Series. I want to be in the UFC, and I want to be fighting the best in the world. I really wish things could have been a little bit different. I didn't quite get the training camps that I needed for, to was kind of two short notice fights with Pat and Steven, you know, but a lot of personal problems set me back a little bit also. You know, I'm not going to use any excuses. You know, I fought how I probably would have fought anyway, but, you know, just for in the future, you know, I'd like to get out to some big camps and, you know, gain a little bit more knowledge and train with some of the, you know, some good strikers, some good wrestlers. And, but as of right now, I got to fight July 12th in Houma, Louisiana. And I think the opponent's going to be Jarrett Card. He's a former actual featherweight XFC champion and a Bellator vet. So I plan on racking up a couple wins, man, and trying to get back to the UFC.
Yeah, man, get straight back to it. And that's another thing we've got to note is you've only been professionally fighting now for, is it, 2.5 years? And
since March 2011.
There we are. So it's less than 2.5 years, and you racked in a 9-fight winning streak, and you fought 5 times in the second year of fighting.
Yep.
These are things that the UFC don't seem to have considered. I don't, as you can tell, I'm angry myself at why they'd cut anybody who shows promise. There are guys out there who don't, and it makes no sense to me why they wouldn't. But before that, I mean, how did you get into mixed martial arts?
Just mainly a fan, man. Just from, you know, as long as I can remember my family members ordering the first UFCs and watching them and renting them from Blockbuster. You know, I've become a fan, and I've always been an actual fan of fighting. So decided to give it a shot and actually did something with it.
Yeah, you're pretty damn successful with it as well. So where did you start training, and how did things form together, as it were?
Well, we had a little gym down here in Louisiana called Gracie Baja. You know, big known gym. I actually started training under a black belt from Carlos Gracie Jr. and went from there. And since taking my first amateur fight in 2008. Just kept racking up one win after another, and next thing you know, turning pro, and same thing.
I mean,
you know, jumped off to a 9-0 start, and got a shot in the UFC.
Had you had the chance to wrestle at school or anything like that?
Nope, never really done nothing before. Just going in and training for everything.
Well, you've had a fantastic career despite you know, you got into it, should we say, a bit later in life then. But
right.
Then once you started getting the wins up, how did the offer with Strikeforce come about? How did that arise?
Well, I'm actually my manager. I'm managed by Alchemist Management. You know, they're a big management company, and you know, I'm sure they got good ties, and they called me to replace, well, it was Gilbert Melendez, and I think it was Jorge Masvidal, but they called me and asked me if I wanted to take the fight. I said, hell yeah. I don't care who it is.
I mean, that's a big risk in terms of, you know,
right.
You could have waited, but so they directly contacted you as soon as somebody dropped out. There's no second thoughts about anything. It was straight to you.
I think it was out of somebody else, but, you know, my management was able to, you know, I guess, show Zuffa that I was a good fit for the fight, and turns out I was.
Yeah, you pulled the right strings, clearly. But that's another thing to mention. I mean, you spoke about the Gracie Baja from where you're from. I mean, you began your career with mostly submissions, and then towards the end of 2012, you started getting these TKOs, and then you also had the amateur knockout. How have you progressed? How would you say you've progressed? Would you say you're more of a jiu-jitsu guy, or how would you look at it?
Well, I wouldn't say I was more of a jiu-jitsu guy. You know, I like to put on exciting fights, and I like to stand up. And, you know, it normally was the guys trying to take me down, and as they did that, you know, I was normally able to submit them. You know, since I started fighting higher competition, things have kind of changed up a little bit. You know, like for the last 2 fights, going to decisions, definitely wasn't used to decisions. So, I think that kind of got to me a little bit. And then fighting Siler, I'm not going to say I was unsure that I could finish him because I believe I should have in the second round. But that was still like in the back of my head if I could finish a guy at that level yet.
That's the other thing that we got to discuss is Joe Rogan loves to talk about what does he call it, octagon jitters when you have your first fight. Did you feel it? Could you blame that to the maybe the first round?
I guess you could say that. I don't like to make excuses or anything like that, but fighting in the UFC and is definitely nerve-wracking for one. There's a lot more stuff than you have to do than normally just the local fight. There's a lot more medicals, a lot more interviews, a lot more publicity that gets out. So, it's different.
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy your experience?
Oh, man, it was one of the best experiences of my life.
Well, it's a shame. I still can't. I just can't understand why they cut you. Obviously it must be something personal, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess.
Hopefully I get back there.
Yeah, exactly. You're still young. What are you, 26, 27?
26.
There we are. You've still got a hell of a career to go. You've only fought, as we said, you've only been fighting professionally for less than 2.5 years. Your story is absolutely fantastic, man. And I personally wish you all the best. As for, looking again back at your past, have you got a favourite moment that you've had in a fight?
I guess not really. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be the second round against Steven Siler.
Well, having the whole crowd behind you rooting for you?
Yeah. Just knowing that from what I came back from, man, he did a lot of damage in that first round, and I just knew that I had to get the second round, and I was just trying to take it to him with everything I had.
Well, you definitely proved it, and I guess I got one more question I've got to ask you, and this is you are the one of the very few guys who can say you fought in both Strikeforce and the UFC. How much of a big there is differences between every promotion, as you said. You've got interviews, you've got medicals, the more professionalism between everything. Weigh-ins to everything. How would you describe the experiences how they differed between Strikeforce and the UFC?
Strikeforce and UFC, I guess, is basically was the same since they're both zuffa, but the UFC is still just so much bigger. The crowd's bigger. Just a little bit, everything's a little bit better on the UFC side.
I guess when you look at it as well, you were headlined by John Jones and Chael Sonnen, and in the Strikeforce one, you were headlined by Tarek Safadine and Nate Mardcart. So you can see the crowds are going to be so much bigger. When you were first contacted after the Strikeforce fight and that you were probably going to go to the UFC, did you just get the call, or how did that happen?
Yeah, basically it was just a call to replace Pat, or replace Masvidal and against Pat, and we signed a 4-fight deal, and they basically said, look, you don't have a lot of people expecting you to win this fight, but we need you to do well. And I did well. So Sean Shelby come to the back and asked me if I would like to come to the UFC in the 145 division. I said, hell yeah, I'll be there.
It's brilliant, man. You sound like you're up for it, and these are the sort of fighters we want. We don't want people to pick and choose their fights. You said yourself you're a fan of this sport. Who's your favorite fighter?
Chuck Liddell, and it's kind of funny that you said that because Siler's from the pit, so obviously that's Chuck Liddell's team, and John Hackelman was Siler's coach, and after the fight I talked to him a little bit, and he actually got Chuck to call me on the phone and talk to me while I was getting stitched up.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. What sort of things did you talk about?
Just a fight, man. He just told me great fight, and I'll be back.
Well, if Chuck's telling you that and he's working for the UFC, I think it's only a matter of time, man.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
Anyway, I personally wish you all the best, as I've said before. I guess I'll give you a minute or two. I mean, you're at Kurt Holobaugh on Twitter. It's very simple to find you there. Have you got anywhere else that people can, social network you?
Just basically Facebook and Twitter.
How do I find you on the Facebook then?
Just Kurt Holobaugh.
So it's pretty simple for everybody listening. And finally, have you got any sponsors or anything that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Not as of right now, man. Just I'll give a shout out to Dana. Tell him get my job back, man.
Yeah, that's got to be done.
Let it work.
It's got to be done on his behalf. I mean, you did mention your management company, Alchemy Management, I think you said. And yeah, when's your fight again? We got to write this date down so we can check out the results of it when it happens.
July 12th.
And where's that at?
It's gonna be at Houma, Louisiana.
Right. So anybody in Louisiana, you got to go check out the fight. Are you going to be headlining?
Yep, I'll be the main event.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear, man. But seriously, all the best in your future, and thank you very much for coming on this show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. I'll talk to you later anyway. Hopefully we can get you back at some stage.
Yep, give me a call.
Thanks for listening, guys. That was my interview with Kurt Holobaugh. Next week, we will have I don't know who we'll have. You know what it's like with me and trying to book someone. I'm rubbish at this. But anyway, that was Kurt. It's a fantastic interview. Great guy. Go follow him at Kurt Holobaugh. Go find his Facebook. If Kurt's listening, I want to thank you very much. And fantastic guest. And come on, Dana. Come on, the crew at the UFC. What are you playing at? You've got to get this guy signed. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Okay, we're now joined by UFC was welterweight, going to be debuting at lightweight soon, John Maguire. Thank you for joining us today, John.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I know you're just a few days out from flying out to Canada for your big fight. How's things going?
Oh, everything's going well. Trained hard and the weight's come off. Looking forward to making my debut at lightweight.
Well, obviously we will talk about the fight. We'll go into it, but before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about your background and let the listeners know a little bit more about you. So you started fighting professionally, according to your record, in 2006. What made you want to get into mixed martial arts?
Oh well, the story goes. It's true. Like the story is, I was an overweight kid. I was 21, overweight, and I was watching the UFC, and I just thought, well, I can do this. I can beat these guys. I was eating a burger, drinking a Coke, and I thought I could beat these guys. So I just upped and went to a gym and started training.
Where did you go when you started? What gym did you go to?
I started over at Kettering Shoot Fire, and I was there for about a year, and then I moved on to Tsunami Gym where I met Robbie Olivier, and took and Pierre Guillet took me under the wing, and I learned my craft there, and I've been there ever since.
And it's fair to say at the minute there's a lot of talk about Tsunami Gym. There's been obviously some really good fighters coming through. What's it like being part of that gym?
Oh, mate, good gym. Like I said, I thought it was one of the best gyms in the country, without a doubt, with the fighters we've got. And we've always been a strong gym. A lot of people may not hear of us unless they haggle, but we've got one of the best gyms around, teams and coaches. Yeah,
I agree with that. Definitely. Probably not just the UK, probably easily the European scene as well, I think it's fair to say. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your UK MMA, because obviously you fought UK MMA before you went on to the UFC. You fought in pretty much all the major UK promotions, really, from Cage Rage to BAMA to UK MMA. What were your thoughts on the UK scene, and what was it like coming through the UK scene?
Oh, it was great. Like I said, I was one of them fighters. I just wanted to fight. I wanted to win and win titles. I'm a competitive guy. And you coming through the UK scene, especially the later fights I was pushed a lot because I was beating the top guys, and I didn't pick and choose fight. I always went after the top guys. So I wasn't looking for no easy fights. And coming through the UK scene was good. And then winning, I was a middleweight champion because I used to fight at middleweight. Then I dropped to welterweight. And I gained 2 titles down there, like the UFC MMA Cage Weight title and also the OMAC title. So yeah, UK scene was great for me.
Before obviously you fought on the UFC, you had a really good run in the UK MMA, which obviously of course got you noticed. You fought a lot of good guys. You fought in all the major UK promotions, BAMA, UFC MMA, Cage Rage. What were some of your personal highlights or favourite fights from the UK MMA scene?
One would have to be Dean Amazinga. Of course, he's from the Ultimate Fighter. He was on Ultimate Fighter UK vs USA on Michael Bisping's team, and that's one I highlight because he's coming from a good team. Just come off the show, coming from a good team, training with Paul Daly and Jim Moorhead and people like that, and build up to the fight. There's a lot of talking, like they didn't give me a chance, and a lot of the writers say they just beat me, run through me, and he just out wrestle me. But I come from a good wrestling background with Tsunami Jim. We wrestle a lot, and I knew he's not a better wrestler than me, and I ended up choking him unconscious in the second round, finishing him off. So that was one of my highlights, one of my favourite fights.
Was it, after all the people doubting on you, was it really sweet to get such an emphatic finish as well with the rear naked choke and obviously with him going unconscious?
Oh yeah, sweet. I didn't. Like I said, he refused a tap. Before that, I hit him with a sweet flying knee and like busted his nose, and then I went in with a choke, and yeah, it was a great finish to the fight. It was really good.
I mean, you put a hell of a run together. I think it was like 5 or 6 fights on the bounce, and of course then you got picked up by the UFC. Do you want to tell us how that came about? How the UFC made contact with you, and what it was that made them come and get you?
Yeah, well, they because I tried out a few times for the Ultimate Fighter, and I always got to the later stages of it, and just never got chosen. They always flew me back, done all my medicals and stuff like that, and I got really close to getting more in the season. But it was a season, I can't remember, it was 10 or 11, and it was a season where you just didn't have to fight off, you just went straight in the house. So that's why I didn't get in, because the selection, they ended up picking a Wolfslide guy from Bisping's team in the end, who subbed, who you only seen once on the show, and you never see him again. I don't even think he even still fights anymore. Yeah, I just chose to keep fighting, don't let it hold me back, and then eventually keep winning, being top guys, and let the UFC come to me, and they did.
So how sweet was it, mate? I mean, obviously you made your UFC debut at UFC 138, which if I remember rightly was in Birmingham. Was that right?
Yes, yeah.
I was at that event, and you faced Justin Edwards, who's a pretty tough, sturdy fighter, and he does some good wins as well. And I think he came from the Ultimate Fighter as well. What was it like facing him and getting your first UFC win?
Oh, it was good. The best thing about it was just you always say about small world. I met Justin when I was trying out for the season. He was on the season I was trying out for, so I already knew him because I made a friend with him, and I hung out with him a lot while I was over there. And then it come about we ended up fighting, which I wasn't bothered at the end of the business, but it was. I put a lot of pressure on me itself that night, but fighting in England for the first time and winning my debut was that is the highlight of my career, like one of my favourite things.
Yeah, I can see why.
Especially coming back from a knockdown, I got dropped at 45 seconds into the fight, and I got dropped.
Oh gosh, I bet that was just the worst possible start for you. But like you say, you come back, and I remember this fight in particular as well. Because your next fight, because after that you faced DeMarcus Johnson, and of course he was one of the standout guys on this tough season 9 that we've already talked about with Dean Amazinga. And not only did you actually fight and beat him, but we got to, for the first time in the UFC, we got to see Gypsy Jiu-Jitsu. What was it like getting a finish and obviously beating DeMarcus Johnson?
Oh, well, it was a good fight. They offered it to me on main card, and I couldn't turn him down because Johnson had a lot of fights in the UFC, and I thought it was a great fight for me. And when it come about, and I was like, and so I got to show my ground skill, and he showed his ground skill, but he was doing some clever things himself, and ended up counting that come all to an armbar and ended up winning sub of the night with it. Yeah. So, that was really good.
I was at that event as well, so I remember that was brilliant. Now, obviously, I know. Go on, carry on.
Say again.
No, what was you going to say?
I just said, the Swedish event was crazy, amazing atmosphere there.
Yeah, it was. I've been to both the Sweden events. It's a great arena, and they've both been great cards as well. Now I know obviously then you're coming off a couple of losses, and you're now dropping down to lightweight. Now before I talk about your fight at lightweight, I want to ask you something as well, because obviously I know with your Tsunami gym you've got a very close knit gym, and I know we've already talked about you've got some really good guys there, and of course recently we've seen one rise to the top and come out of that gym, which of course is Luke Barnett, who had a great run on The Ultimate Fighter. What was it like seeing somebody that you are so close with having so much success and now joining you in the UFC?
Oh, it's good. Like I said, he's worked hard. He's not had that many fights, but he's worked hard. He's paid his due going for The Ultimate Fighter. And yeah, it's good to see him pay off. It's where he wanted to be. And it's good, yeah, it's good to see him there. But when he knows his place, and if he steps out of line, I'll put him back in it.
Okay, well, obviously this weekend, as you're flying out to Winnipeg, Canada for UFC 161. You're dropping down to lightweight. You're facing Mitch Clark, who I believe is going to be a hometown fighter or a home country fighter. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Mitch Clark as an opponent in this fight?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know who Mitch Clark was. UFC approached me and asked would I fight him, and I've done some research on time, and I think it is a really good fight for me, especially for my lightweight day. And he's in the same boat as me. And he's dropped a couple of decisions in a row, and I've dropped so I think it's a real good fight, and so it's more pressure on him, I reckon, being in his own country. But there's pressure, and I said the loser goes home, so I think it's a good fight for me, especially from a debut.
Yeah, I think it is a good fight for you, and I feel you're right about the pressure. There is more pressure on him, and also he's coming off 2 losses like you, but he hasn't got 2 wins in the UFC like you. So, in a way...
that's one thing. He hasn't won a fight in the UFC yet. And the fights I've lost, I've not been beaten up in them or anything. They've been one halfway fight was probably one of the worst and shittiest fights to ever be in the UFC. Even Hathaway was not happy with that. We both fought like 2 bums. I was surprised we didn't both get cut that night, how bad that was. And then I took a fight in 2 weeks notice against Riddle. And that was just using the size on me. I was never, what's the saying? Always outsized but never outgunned.
Yeah.
For a long time, people were telling me to go to lightweight, and I just thought, well, I keep winning. What's the point of dropping down to lightweight when I'm winning? So, but finally, I'm down to lightweight. I've actually got abs. I'm in shape, and I'm looking forward to making a lightweight. And I reckon I can make a real run at lightweight.
I think
first step is getting past Mitch Clark.
Absolutely.
Public enemy number 1.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Of course, you wouldn't be there if you couldn't make that run. Obviously, the biggest thing about dropping down a weight, of course, is the weight cut. How's the weight cut going, and how much weight have you got to cut between now and next week?
I think I've got about 8 kilos to do between. But I've been working with, as you probably know, in Luke's work, we've probably mentioned him, is Mike Dolce.
Yeah.
With the Dolce diet, and he's helped a lot. Yeah, and so it's easy. I can make the weight easy. No one likes making weight, even though I can make it easy. It's probably the worst part of the job, but it is the job. But with Mike's help, and I think Mike is going to be in Canada with me, helping me make weight. So all good on that end.
To be fair, I think Mike's the best in the business. I think he's got a reputation for being the best in the business as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. He works with a lot of the top guys, and Johnny Hendricks and all people like that. And he's like I said, he's worked with my friend Luke. That's how I met him, through Luke, and I get on real well with him. So he's a cool guy, and he emailed me this week saying he wants to come out and help me. So I didn't even ask him. That's how cool it is. He approached me and said he wants to come out and help me. And I said, fine, cool.
That's fantastic. Well, obviously, we wish you all the luck for the fight. But before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. You want to shout out any friends, family, shout out your sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well?
Oh, no, I just thank all the people who supported me now, because I know it's been a bit of a rocky road lately. But I've always had the people around me who believe in me. My team, Tsunami, like my brother and Luke, Jack, Robbie, all the guys, I know they are. And just follow me on Twitter at Mcguire1. That's all I have to say.
Brilliant. Thanks.
And if you haven't seen it, check out my MMA flash dance.
We'll get that posted on the site with the show as well, so people can check that out.
Yeah, because I think it's I checked today, it's like 14,500 people viewed it, and it's going on what's it called? Inside MMA this week.
Oh, fantastic!
They've got in contact, and they're going to put it on their show.
Excellent, brilliant. That's awesome. I wish you all the luck for the fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing you debut at lightweight, and you are. I think you're definitely primed to make a run, and you've got the best people around you as well. So obviously, thanks for today, and good luck for week Saturday.
All right, thanks very much for having me. And anything afterwards or whatever, like I said, hopefully I'll win. You'll have me back and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, definitely. I've got your number now. I'll message you. We'll definitely sort that out.
All right, then, right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Right, thank you. Anytime, bye.
Okay, that was this week's show. I hope you enjoyed listening to those interviews. We'll be back again next week. Not quite sure who we've got lined up as of yet. But, tune in next week to see what we've got. Thank you.